Senator Deeds.
Mr. Chair, I move that we amend Senate Joint Resolution 84 to remove lines 42 and 43.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to remove lines 42 and 43 will signify by saying
Is there
aye.
any discussion?
Aye.
Or, before we vote, is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think public should be allowed to comment. Members should be allowed to comment instead
Well,
of
let's
just.
have comments from the members. Did you want to speak, Senator McDougall?
Mr. Chairman, I was not advocating to speak, but I was advocating that the public be allowed to speak and members, instead of just pulling off a cabinet secretary with no articulation of why you're pulling them off and moving forward to try to jam that through. I mean, it's clear that the committee is stacked 9-6 in a nonpartisan way. What's going to happen? But at least we ought to have a conversation about it.
We received a letter from 150 former EPA employees who suggested that Mr. Wheeler had undermined the work of the EPA and worked against the environmental interests of this country. We think that members of the governor's cabinet ought to be people that unite us as Virginians, and certainly the Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources ought to be one that we have confidence in terms of working for the preservation and conservation of our natural and historic resources. And on this side of the aisle, we just don't have that level of confidence with this nominee.
Is there further discussion among members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm happy to
Senator
throw
Reeves.
toast over toast, but I mean, I can go through Mr. Wheeler's, all the stuff he's done. He completed his law degree at Washington University, and when he served as the administration's EPA principal, all the things that he's done, he gave $225 million in funding for water reuse project to protect the bay. Provided $200 million for wastewater infrastructure to reduce runoff and sewage from reaching the bay. Provided funding to the Pennsylvania agencies to address agricultural runoff. 2020, the bay attained the lowest ANOC dead zone in 30 years under seawater grasses and have increased 34,000 to 100,000 acres. Air emissions decreased 7% during the last administration. These reductions were pre-COVID through 2019. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So it's just a difference of opinion, but I think my colleague from Hanover is right. I mean, we can sit and go tit for tat, but we already know what the outcome of this.
Mr. Chair, we can go tit for tat.
Okay, Senator Deeds.
We can go tit for tat, and we can certainly counterpoint every one of your points. I don't recall us having this kind of discussion when your side of the aisle decided to remove Mr. Danny LeBlanc from Governor Kane's cabinet several years ago. The precedent has been set. I would call the question on the motion.
Yeah, and I would just suggest to Senator Reeves that Mr. Wheeler was invited to the Ag and Natural Resources Committee for an interview, and he's met with many of us in our offices, and many of us have received correspondence from both sides. I know my office got more than 500 letters opposing his nomination, and the clerk has forwarded some letters to the contrary to us as well. So I think this has been... members of the committee are well informed, and unless there's other committee discussion, there was a motion to...
I'll second the motion.
Okay. So all those in favor of removing lines...
No, it's calling the question.
all those in favor of calling the question will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I believe the ayes have it. Now we'll have a vote on whether or not to remove lines 42 and 43. Is that a voice vote, or do we need to record that? Okay, it'll be the voice vote. A vote in an aye is to remove lines 40.
Mr. Chairman, we would ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, we will have a recorded vote on whether to remove lines 42 and 43 from the resolution. An aye is to remove those lines.
Senator Bell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ayes 9, noes 6.
Okay, the motion carries, and now we are